And this conversation with my wife about inputs led me to start to think about, well, what are some inputs that I might not even recognize as inputs? What are inputs that I might even complain that I have to spend money on this thing, but if I actually take a step back and break it down, that this thing is actually improving my health and wellness. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we are all going to struggle. And how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. How is it going? My name is Pete, coming to you from Vermont. And a couple months ago, I had this really impulsive thought at like 4 a.m. that I wanted to share with our family listeners. So I came downstairs, hit record, and shared some of the stuff that I learned in 2023. It was right around the time of the New Year's, a number of episodes ago. And to be honest, I don't even remember exactly which episode it was. And I came on by myself with no guests, with no real plan, just to share kind of what I was thinking at the time, what was on my mind, and I guess what was on my heart. And I got a lot of really positive feedback about that solo effort. And it happened again recently. Last night, I found my brain thinking about some stuff, and this is not normally a time that I record, and I didn't have anything set up with any other co-hosts or guests, and I just thought I'd come down here, hit record, and share some thoughts, kind of make it a short solo episode. So here we go. The theme of this show is navigating struggle. The only guarantee in life is struggle. And one struggle that I'm faced with right now and I'm trying to navigate is what seems like so many people in my life are getting all sorts of different cancer diagnoses. And I feel like every time I talk to a friend or a family member that I haven't talked to in a little bit, their news is, oh, did you hear so-and-so is diagnosed with this type of cancer? And I just feel like every time I turn around, this cancer thing is kind of coming at me from all different angles and weighing on me in all different ways. And I'm struggling with it. And as someone who's kind of fascinated and really into and passionate about the health and wellness field, I've been doing a deep dive on what I need to do now in my 40s to mitigate any health concerns later in my life. And I'm kind of freaked out by the whole cancer thing, to be honest, and trying to eat well and exercise and de-stress and all these different things that have hopefully proven to be helpful. But I just feel like this cancer thing is inevitable, it's ubiquitous, and it's unescapable. And that's kind of the way that I'm feeling right now. And we have a couple close people in our lives. When I say we, I'm referring to my family members that are really struggling with kind of the terminal end of cancer, and we're trying to navigate that. And I was having a conversation with my father the other day, and my father was sharing with me what he learned about the person who's close to our family who's dealing with this, who I'll keep nameless for this conversation. Is it a conversation if you're talking to yourself? I guess. Well, I'm talking to you all, so I'm not talking to myself, so it is a conversation, I guess. Anyway, what my father shared with me was that this person communicated to him that all their life they'd saved up some money so that in their retirement years they'd be comfortable and they'd be able to enjoy their life. And they're so sick right now that they can't even have a meal and enjoy it. And that kind of hit me. And it made me think about something that I learned from a podcast I was listening to a while back with Mat Fraser, who's the 5-time fittest man on earth. And I logged onto that podcast to listen to the fitness end of it. But what he ended up talking about, and he's a pretty financially savvy guy, he ended up talking about this topic or this mindset that he calls inputs. And to him, inputs is spending money, time, or attention on things that move us closer to the people that we want to be, but also enhance us physically, emotionally, or cognitively. It's like an investment in ourselves. It enhances our physical or emotional or cognitive well-being. That got me thinking back then about ways that I could kind of have some inputs in my life. And where's the balance between, oh, it's really good to connect with friends, but to go out and party all night long might not be the best option. So where is this balance in our lives? And for me, it was for my life where I'm investing in inputs. And just yesterday, I was talking to my wife over dinner about this whole concept. And I just said to her, what are some inputs in your life and in our family that you can think of? So we kind of went through, we made a list, which I'm going to share in a moment. But what I'm thinking about right now, or what's really resonating with me, is how much do I invest in my inputs in the present? Because I'm someone who likes to save and squirrel away money for the future, because I just like the feeling of that, and I like to see it grow investment-wise. And, my father told me every dollar you spend is not just a dollar spent, but you're also spending every dollar that dollar could have made, right? So if I spend $1 now versus invest that dollar in 30 years could be worth $5. And if I have a bunch of those $1 that are put in 30 years from now, it could be something that I could have an input in with myself and do something big, maybe a trip or something. But how do I balance that with the now and getting my inputs now? Because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And that's kind of what's been knocking on my door lately, so to speak, is that tomorrow is not guaranteed. And all we have is today. I don't want to be reckless and be crazy and empty all my tanks today. So I want to prepare for the future, but also want to be investing in inputs now. And when I say inputs, I'm going to give you some examples that my wife and I listed to kind of give the listeners an idea. And then what I'm going to challenge you, the listener, to do is to think about inputs in your life. What are some ways that you invest in yourself to enhance your physical or mental well-being? And where's the line there? How do we find that balance? And I think many people in our culture are kind of tipping too far on the impulsive, this makes me feel good, this makes me feel happy now, so I'm going to do the thing now, and tomorrow is not prepared for. So it's this balance for me. So one that my wife brought up, which I think is awesome, and this was her idea many, many years ago, and we continue to follow through on this, is for the big holidays, birthdays, Christmas, instead of gifts, like tangible items that you open and look at, we give each other experiences. The experiences for gifts have been really, really cool. So a couple of years ago, my wife got Lauren and I a mushing dog experience up in Maine. So we drove up to Maine and hooked up the Iditarod sled dogs. We didn't. The musher did. And musher is the person who drives the sled and the sled dogs. And we sat in the back of the sled while the sled dogs pulled us through the woods and went through all these different trails and were ripping around corners. And it was a really cool experience. Last year, we took our daughter to Disney on Ice, and sitting in that arena in Hartford, Connecticut, after spending the night in a hotel that had a pool and a continental breakfast with a bunch of processed sugar, was awesome for her. And she loved to see Mickey and Minnie do their twists and turns on the ice, and she just thought it was the coolest thing. And those inputs or those experiences are cool for us because not only is it an enjoyable moment in the moment, but it is a chance for us to invest in each other and invest in our relationship as a family to create a tighter bond. And then speaking of another input, what my wife will often do is she will come back from those trips and make a photo book. And then, once a year, whatever, we'll sit down and kind of go through the photo books as a family. And it's a really, really cool, enjoyable endeavor. Giving experiences as gifts, it has been really cool. And as we try to consume less and all these different things, consume physical, tangible items or products less, we're finding more and more value in giving experiences as gifts to each other rather than stuff. So that's an input for us. For me, an input is my workout equipment. I've spent a considerable amount of money on workout equipment over the years, and it's a twofold payback, in my opinion. One, yes, it boosts my physical fitness, and I'm physically stronger because of it, and I'm more physically fit because of it, and it's just a way that I enjoy spending my time, and the stimulation of challenging myself to hit personal goals and compete in different fitness competitions and stuff is all really stimulating, and it's really amazing in many ways. But I think the real fruit of it is my friends come over and we work out together, and we have workout sessions together, and we connect with each other, and we bond, and we suffer together. And it's just a really, really cool thing. So an input for me, without question, is my workout equipment. High quality workout equipment that's going to hold up for decades is friggin' expensive. But I've found for me, it's one of the best investments that I can make, both in my own health and wellness, but also helping others with theirs. And that feels really good. And then the payback for that is we get to hang out while we work out at my house, which is really cool. Similar to those experiences that we give for gifts, travel for us is an input. And that's probably the place where we, outside of our normal living expenses, that's where we spend the most money, and we put X amount of dollars away every month for travel. And that money doesn't get touched until it's time to travel. And we try to go on a couple trips a year. I believe that there is no cooler way for me to experience life than to get out and be in places and cultures and stuff that I've never been to or that I've never experienced, or ones that I've been to a bunch of times and I absolutely love and I want to return time and time again. So travel for us, again, another way for us to bond, to create experiences together. Travel for us is a big one. And my wife mentioned that Inputs for her come in the form of board games and card games. She thinks that's money well spent to buy the board game or the card game because it's the mental stimulation for her. It challenges her cognitively, but it also brings people together and it allows her to connect with friends and family. Oftentimes when I ask her what she wants for her birthday, she'll say, I just want my friends to come over and play games with me. So if you ever want to make Jen's day, give her a call or a text or an email and ask her to meet up and play a board game sometime. You're always welcome here. We got tons of them at our house, and those are inputs for us. Another input for us is investing in high quality food. So we invest in what's called a CSA, which is a community shared agriculture. There's a farm down the road, and they're constantly growing the latest vegetables that are in season. And we will go each week, drive over there, whatever's in season they put out for us to take. It's not super cheap, but it supports the local farmers, and it also puts really high quality in-season ingredients in our body. And also it's cool because Jen is kind of forced to cook with ingredients that she might not choose otherwise. And there's a whole lot of inputs that come along with that, with learning new recipes and being adaptable and agile in the kitchen and all these different things. But investing in high quality food, just for feeling well, for optimizing our performance and the way we feel and the way we go about our day, it's a great input for us. I think I've shared in past episodes that the research shows that, generally speaking, in the Western culture, families spend approximately 5% of their annual income on groceries and 6% of their annual income on prepared food, so like restaurant foods. So my family and I choose to do almost zero in restaurant foods, and we do the vast majority of our food expenses come from groceries because you just get more bang for a buck. It's really difficult for me to pony up 25% of the weekly grocery expenditures on one meal. And that's about what it is for us. If the three of us go out to one meal, it's about a quarter of what we'd spend on groceries for an entire week. So that's just really hard for me to justify. And the more and more I don't go out to eat, the more I enjoy not going out to eat. Just the value for me is very hard to justify. With that said, when COVID hit, to support local businesses, we started doing takeout once a week. And what we learned was it was really cool to have something to look forward to each week where there was no food prep, there was no food cooking, there was no dishes or cleanup after, and it was kind of a really special thing that we looked forward to. So as we kind of got out of COVID and realized how much money we were spending on takeout, we decided to switch to take in. And take in for us is simply prepared food at the grocery store. So at the counter where the food's already prepared or something like that. It's about a third of the price for us is going out to eat. And we enjoy take in every now and again, and looking forward to having a night where there is no cooking or cleaning and it's just something different. So that's definitely an input for us. Jen mentioned that in our family, and at least definitely for her, and I can say the same for me for sure, that books, the large majority of books read in our family are from the library, but we also buy books every now and again. I'm an incredibly slow reader, so I like to buy a book because I can't get the book returned to the library in the time, even with the renew. So yeah, books is an awesome input for us, and I don't think that we've regretted too many of those. And the cool thing is you buy a book and you read it and you keep it and read it again later, or you give it to someone and you enhance the quality of their life and helping other people is without question an input. You can check the research on that. As parents, we think inputs for both us and our daughter are investing in activities that Lauren does. So right now she's really into gymnastics, and gymnastics is, man, it is not cheap. But the money that we spend on her gymnastics classes, I feel, is a real input. It's just challenging her. It's forcing her to go outside of her comfort zone, both physically and mentally. I feel like there's so much to be gained. That's an incredible foundation of fitness for young people to be doing. Gymnastic skills, going upside down is great for the vestibular, the stuff that's happening in the brain and the ear canals and those types of things. So not just gymnastics, but any kind of physical activity where people can continue to build their skills over time, I think is an input. Piano lessons is also one. And this summer, Lauren asked if she could do a theater camp. Holy crap. You want to talk about not cheap? Theater camp. And the theater camp registration opened up at 9 a.m. the other morning, and I was on there at 8:59 hitting the refresh button over and over and over again because it's hard to get into these things, even with as much as they cost. So pretty crazy. We do one camp a year for her, and this year she's going to be in theater camp, which is really excited. And this conversation with my wife about inputs led me to start to think about, well, what are some inputs that I might not even recognize as inputs? What are inputs that I might even complain that I have to spend money on this thing, but if I actually take a step back and break it down, that this thing is actually improving my health and wellness. And what's funny is, as much as Todd and I poop on cell phone usage on this podcast on a very regular basis, I really believe that my cell phone and my monthly cell phone bill is quite possibly a really, really powerful input in my life, because it is how I stay connected with the most important people in my life. And it's how I stay connected with people that are reaching out for help and people that I reach out for help with. So the cell phone is really cool. To be honest, I could completely do away with all social media apps and just text and call people. Like, I'd cool with like the capabilities of a flip phone. I could get my needs met there. But being on multiple text threads and group chats and all these things is a really cool way for someone like me who moved away from where I grew up to stay in touch with people that I really value in my life. And it's really cool. I guess I wouldn't be able to do this on the flip phone, but to share pictures with, my mom of my daughter, so my mom can see her grandchild doing cool things. And I just think that that's without question an input. I'm talking to a microphone right now with a pair of headphones into my MacBook. This is an input because I love this podcast format, and this $1,000 setup of getting this thing all going was a real tough pill to swallow when I had this podcast idea. And no, you don't need that much money to set up a podcast. You can go with the bare bones, but I decided to kind of go all in on this thing, and it was important to me to have high quality audio. So I invested, and this has been it's been an input for me. With that said, I do think it is super important to keep in mind, if we get too caught up in the here and now with our enjoyable inputs, we could quite possibly deny ourselves even the bigger, more rewarding inputs down the road. I think a really cool example of that is, I have a really close friend who chatted with me the other day and said, "Hey, I have this amazing opportunity to go on this trip to Argentina, this culinary tour. It's something that I've wanted to do my entire life, but it is crazy expensive. And I'm having a hard time committing to dropping the cash to go on this trip." And we had a really cool conversation. What I learned about him was that over the last couple of decades, he's just been incredibly prudent with his finances. And that has set him up to allow himself to go on this trip if he so chooses. And I think that if we're too caught up in enjoying the now with our impulsive choices, or we're just investing in all of our resources in our current inputs, that could deny us for some really big, like, bucket list items down the road. And in having this conversation with my friend was really fascinating, because it was just neat to hear his thoughts and perspectives. And I said, you know what, if you were to not go on this trip, what would you do with this money that's more rewarding at any point in your life? And he couldn't really come up with anything. I think that was a determining factor is, okay, yes, it's a big chunk of money. And yes, it's hard to lay it down to go on one trip or one excursion. And I could invest in that and have, more available down the road to do other things. But this is the ultimate thing. This is the thing that I want to do the most. And you have your health and you have the ability to go now. And so we just had that conversation, and he committed to going on the trip, which I'm really proud of him for. So super, super psyched for him in that regard. But I think there is this balance of, if we spend too much finances or attention on the now, we deny ourselves of some really big bucket list items down the road. One of them for myself and my family is to go on an African safari. Not cheap financially, no matter how you look at it. But I think it would be so cool to get out in those trucks out in the savannah and be driving around and seeing all these wild African animals. And we plan to do that about a decade from now. And we're going to slowly chip away and put some money in, while also enjoying the here and now with our current inputs. But finding that balance of what we can do now to also allow ourselves to have those huge bucket list item opportunities down the road, I think is something very important to consider when thinking about how you're going to allocate your assets to invest in your inputs. So if you're still listening, I'd encourage you to think about, what are inputs in your life, and then how do you balance the amount of that input, right? Because too much of a good thing can be maybe not so good. I'd like to say, if one is good, two has to be better, right? Well, that might not be the case with certain things, especially when it comes to like addictions or things that set us back with our health and mental well-being. We can overdo things, but finding that balance. And then for me, it's not only finding the balance of how much I give to that input in the moment, but how much do I also continue to prepare for the future and secure the future? Because a dollar spent now does negate every dollar that dollar could make in the future. And that weighs on me too. So kind of finding the balance. But after some conversations in our family recently and seeing what's transpiring with the health of many people who I deeply care about around me, I think we're actually going to pull back a little bit on the retirement stuff and the long-term investment stuff and start to invest a little bit more in our current inputs, because the only thing we have is today. And I think it's super important to recognize that, acknowledge that. Yes, prepare for the future, but also really be all in on seeking purpose and fulfillment now, so that if the inevitable happens sooner than we want it to happen, that we've lived a fruitful life. We feel connected with each other or the people that we care most about, and that we can look back on our life and say, that was freaking awesome. That's the goal, is to make it freaking awesome. So with that said, I appreciate you listening to my standalone solo rant here on inputs, but I think it's something worth considering as we kind of make our way through our world, what we do with our finances, what we do with our attention, what we do with our time. Speaking of which, I so very much appreciate your ears. I do thank you for your time. I am incredibly grateful for your attention. On behalf of myself, here at the School and Struggle podcast, I am out. Peace.